So we almost weren't even going to record this today, as I am really sick, but thankfully on the mend.
Good.
I don't know. I was gonna go to band practice this morning, but I woke up with like a splitting headache, so I slept most of the day, and then I figured out that crystal meth is a good way to get through the day. So
Right. I'm glad you could make it.
yeah, me too. Me too.
I've been
Yeah.
excited about this episode.
Yeah, me too.
So,
me too. I've been looking
thank
forward
goodness
to it
for
all
meth.
week. Yes, absolutely. Crystal meth and PCP allows you to soak a shotgun blast. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. You ever see anyone on PCP before?
No.
I saw this guy jump up and down on a bed. He left teeth marks in the ceiling.
Jesus.
It was pretty cool. Yeah, but anyway.
Is that true?
No, that's not true.
Oh my god.
It's from Brian Lewis Sanders' poem called PCP Poetry.
Oh my lord.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Anyway, okay, so we are doing part 2. Peter Kürten.
Yeah.
Finally. Feels like it's been a couple weeks, but it really hasn't.
It's been 1 week.
Yeah, I know. Yes. We have corrections from last time too.
Yeah. So I fucked up the location of Mulham on Rhine. And it's really just like Google Maps' fault because I was just searching. Apparently there is like a place called like Mulheim that's by France, but it's not the same place. So all the searching I did up the Rhine River to see how far away it was, like really didn't matter. Apparently it's just like a little suburb in like northern Cologne.
Mm-hmm.
So really he didn't make much headway at all.
Or Cologne to you normies.
It's not Cologne.
Yeah, but that's how everyone thinks of it.
Yeah, it's not though.
Not everybody is well versed in German history and geography.
Not
Yergy.
everyone has an OMA.
Not everyone has an OMA. Not everyone's German. So
there.
anyways, I figured I would let the casuals be like, oh yeah, that place. So if most people can even name a place in Germany other than Berlin. But anyways, we also so I was on about them seduction charges, which was apparently a thing in America too, right?
Yeah.
Frank Sinatra got charged with that.
Yeah, so basically all the seduction charges are is when a married man like basically has some sort of an affair with an unmarried woman, thus like ruining her like reputation. Is basically what it is.
So the man is this evil devil person that, swayed a good Christian woman away from the proper path.
Yeah, so that's
and
what
now
it is.
that her reputation is ruined for being a whore and a slut.
Drewby.
What? I'm just saying that's how they looked at it back then. And so, but this man, oh my goodness, he must face criminal charges.
Yeah.
For doing this to a woman. When did these things start getting phased out?
I don't know. Obviously recently.
I mean, I guess so. I mean, it would have had to have been in the past, like
50 years or so.
Yeah, 40, 50 years.
Yep.
So when we talked about Peter Kürten getting the seduction charges, it's funny the rape charge didn't stick, but the seduction charge did. That makes me think that it was more commonplace for men to get charged with that back then. They would think that like, oh, there's no way that you forced yourself on someone, I'm conjecturing here, but it makes total sense that you just seduced a girl with your devilish ways. I don't know. That's so crazy. I'd never heard about anything like this before.
It doesn't make really any sense, but whatever.
Yeah, can you imagine if that was still around today?
Everybody would be in jail.
Everybody would be in jail. Every single person. Anyways. So where did we leave off?
We left off here at 1929.
So this is when he just moved back to Düsseldorf, and this is where like the biggest spree of his Düsseldorf vampire reign started, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like the scene of the crime was always Düsseldorf. I mean, he committed murders elsewhere, but it always seemed like when he was in Düsseldorf, he just decided to live his best life.
Yeah, he seems to kind of go off the rails here a little bit.
Yeah. So you might have thought last time that he was just big into killing kids, but I
mean, he still is.
I mean, he is, yeah. But I think the bulk of them were elderly women. I'd have to do a running tally. I actually should have done a running tally on the demographics of all of his victims, but
Well, if this runs into like episode 3, we don't know. You know,
we
could
can do that.
Do that because we also possibly have a movie we need to watch.
Oh yes, So I was doing some research and I found out there was some like stupid German movie about him that made him look like it was really poorly done. It made him seem repentant and like a little worm. And I can't remember the name of it. You saw a clip of it too, and it was really
documentary.
boring. Yeah, but I don't remember the name of it. But upon trying to find that movie, because I was going to reference it today, there was a movie released in 2009 about his murders called Normal, and I had never heard of this before, so that's one I definitely have to watch. And if this goes to part 3, I can report back.
Yeah.
But anyways. So, on the topic of elderly women, when he returned to Düsseldorf in 1929, that was his first murder, I believe. Yeah. In February of 1929, he stalked an elderly woman named you need to say the German words.
Apollonia Kuhn.
Okay. He waited until she was shielded from the view of potential witnesses by bushes, and then Kürten pounced upon her, grabbing her by the lapels of her coat, shouting the words, "No, row, don't scream," before dragging her into nearby undergrowth, where he proceeded to stab her 24 times with a sharpened pair of scissors.
Yes, this is where he's all about his fucking scissors.
So he changed his murder weapons a lot to throw off the police, but did he ever use scissors before this? I can't remember if we talked about that last time.
We haven't talked about this, but in a lot of my research, the scissors were mentioned constantly.
Yeah.
This actually reminds me of a pair of scissors that Oma had at her house that were like, you could probably murder someone with them. They were like big and metal and heavy, and like you could probably just like knock someone out if you wanted
like
to.
Gardening shears?
No, they were like just like kitchen type ones.
A game called Clock Tower was for the Super Nintendo and then later for the PlayStation, but the serial killer was this like little boy who had these giant gardening shears he'd impale people with. I always thought that was like the creepiest thing. There's something about being stabbed by a pair of scissors. I don't know, man.
I wouldn't want to. It's like you could stab your tummy and like open them.
You open them. You're
cut
right.
Guts. That's uncomfortable.
Yeah, I would think so. But I'm not really in the business of getting stabbed by anything personally.
No.
But despite this, being stabbed 24 times with a sharpened pair of scissors, and which some of the strikes hit her bones, she survived her injuries. And this is a recurring theme, is that he is very sloppy, doesn't finish his victims off, and just some reason, just like the police can't do anything. They'll get descriptions that they just don't go anywhere with, or people claim they didn't see their attacker, which I just can't understand for the life of me, how he goes this long and just runs so perfect.
Right.
And then February 8th, so 5 days later, he strangled a 9-year-old girl into unconsciousness before stabbing her in the stomach, temple, genitals, and heart with a pair of scissors, spontaneously ejaculating as he knifed the child, and then inserting his semen into her vagina with his fingers. So,
well then,
you know,
that escalated fast.
This whole, like, he claims later that he's not a pedophile, but that is clearly, like, you cannot say that you're not after something like that.
No, he didn't like stick his semen with his fingers into old Apollonia.
Yeah. I mean, if he like, it's only the child. Jesus Christ. And then he made a rudimentary effort to hide the body by dragging it beneath a hedge, before returning to the scene with a bottle of kerosene several hours later and setting the child's body aflame, achieving orgasm at the sight of it.
I could understand that.
Okay, like any normal
like
person.
any normal person. Like, that makes sense to me.
The body was found beneath a hedge the following day, like as if nobody would just see a burning hedge.
Burning
and be like,
bush here.
What is this? Very normal instances.
Very normal here in Germany.
Anyways.
Anywho.
What's next after that? He killed a mechanic on 13th February.
Let's see here. I need the mouse.
Yeah. See, I have it on my phone. It's a little bit easier, but yeah. Here you go. Just
I can have the mouse.
There
Let's
you
see
go.
here.
There you go.
All right. So on the 13th of February, he murdered a 45-year-old mechanic named Rudolf Scheer in a suburb of Flingen Nord. Stabbed him 20 times. So we're killing boys here too. Particularly
Doesn't
about
discriminate.
No, particularly about the head, back, and eyes. That's a little weird.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Stab someone in the eyes.
With the scissors.
Yeah.
Ugh. So following the discovery of Cher's body, Kürten returned to the scene of the murder to converse with the police, which is common, falsely informing one detective he had heard about the murder via telephone.
Believable.
So despite the differences in age and sex of these victims, the fact that all 3 crimes had been committed in the Flingern district of Düsseldorf at dusk, that each victim had received a multitude of stab wounds likely inflicted by or in rapid succession, and
invariably,
yeah,
and at least one wound to the temple. Yeah.
Plus the absence of a common motive such as robbery led investigators to conclude that the same perpetrator had committed all 3 attacks.
Jeez, it just took them like over 10 years to because like before this they were thinking that this was multiple murderers.
Yeah.
And they would just cold case this. And they're just like, this looks like spree killing.
Right.
I guess maybe it could be one person.
So furthermore, the seemingly random selection of these victims led criminologists to remark of the abnormal nature of the perpetrator.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
And then Kürten did attempt to strangle 4 women between March and July of 1929. So again, he's working very quickly here. I think before he would go months at a time without killing, but now he's just like every few days killing people or trying to. But yeah, he strangled 4 women between March and July of 1929, one of whom he claimed to have thrown into the Rhine River. He is not known to have killed any further victims until August 11th, which is only like a month. So again, like
he turned over a new leaf.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to him because like he went like years without killing. I mean, he was in prison most of the time, but I don't know what happened to him now that caused him to just like have this insatiable bloodlust. I wish there was more known about that, but again, like most of the information that psychologists gathered came from Kürten's own recollections, which again, he's not a reliable narrator, so really I guess we'll never know. But let's see. August 11th, he raped, strangled, and repeatedly stabbed a young woman named Maria Hahn, and Kürten had first encountered her, who he described as a girl looking for marriage, whatever that means, on August 8th.
As opposed to what? just being DTF?
Yeah, right. She want a ring first. I don't know, man. I
don't know.
Let's see. Okay, so girl looking for marriage, not girl DTF, and had arranged to take her on a date to the Neanderthal district of Düsseldorf the following Sunday. After several hours in her company, Kürten lured her into a meadow in order that he could kill her. So, like, I just don't understand. There's a lot of, like, luring women that he does. How does one lure somebody into a meadow?
First off, if I'm going on a date, I'm not, especially this appears to be a first date, I'm not going into a meadow with anybody.
Yeah. You're at this bar, you're having a couple drinks or something. They're just like, hey, you want to go to this meadow outside town? Yeah,
like, I'm not victim
safe.
blaming here, but, like, you know, it just seems very strange.
I don't know, man. I mean, maybe this was a very charismatic dude. I don't know. There's not really many... there's not accurate accounts of what he was like as a social creature.
I don't know. He was handsome for the time.
Yes, he was, which is saying something. I mean, it's not saying much, I should say, but I
mean, Germans have a look about them.
Yeah, a look that they like getting shit on, and I don't know, they just look angry all the time. What? You're not completely German. I wasn't insulting you.
I'm like looking at you. I look like I want to get shit on and I'm angry all the time.
but you're not German completely. You're German in France.
France.
So it mixes. Bring that mic closer to your pop filter a little bit.
Hold
No,
on.
because I don't want to overpower you.
You're not overpowering me. You never are when you think you are.
Yeah, it turns out I am when I listen back. But anyways.
Anyways. Girl looking for marriage here.
Yeah, brought her to a meadow to strangle her, and she repeatedly pleaded with him to spare her life, and he alternated between strangling her and stabbing her in the chest and the head. Sounds like a real
and then he sat astride her body waiting for her to die.
So I mean,
he like sat and enjoyed the moment.
Okay, just watching somebody gurgle and bleed out.
Yeah,
I understand. Very magical moment, once in a lifetime.
You know, the gurgling. It's a very disturbing sound.
Days go by. Anyway, same as it ever was. So she had died 1 hour after Kürten began attacking her. So she died pretty slow and agonizingly.
Yeah.
Fearful that Kürten's wife might connect the bloodstains she had noted on her clothes with Hans's murder, Kürten later buried her body in a cornfield, only to return to the body several weeks later with the intention of nailing her decomposing remains to a tree in a mock crucifixion to shock and disgust the public. This dude is clearly just does not give any fucks anymore. Imagine if you did this nowadays, like immediately DNA evidence would get you. Like, oh my god, like how does someone not leave footprints and shit? Like,
I bet this would still happen in like Eastern Europe.
I mean, probably.
I bet you could get away with that there and it'd be fine.
I mean, people die in Serbia all the time.
Like, I bet you could like pay to do this in Eastern Europe.
I'm sure you could. I'm sure you could.
You ever seen a Serbian film?
I haven't, but it's definitely on my list of things to watch. It's like the closest thing to like I don't want to say a snuff film, but because it was actually a directed movie. But yeah, it's pretty fucked up, I hear.
I've seen it. Of course I have.
Of course you've seen it. Of course you've seen it.
All right.
But did you have a viewing party, or did you watch it by yourself?
I watched it by myself because no one wants to watch any of this shit with me.
I do.
I remember a long time ago, Drewby. I'd say like 10 years ago now. Maybe not 10 years ago. 2012. You were over for a barbecue.
I was.
I asked you to watch a film with me.
Yes.
And you declined.
I mean, okay, so there's a few things that people need to know. One, this was a snuff film, okay? And two, I was surrounded by a bunch of good Christian boys who obviously didn't want to watch a snuff film, so I politely declined in regards to their feelings, not because I didn't want to see some dude get... This is the Montreal murders,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, so... Whatever, we can just pull it up onto the big screen and watch it.
I have it on my desktop.
I mean, we could have special Patreon content where we record our reaction to different snuff films.
We could do that. Like, I'll probably just like sing and dance because like it's set to New Order. So
it is.
Yeah.
Is it Blue Monday or
no?
Is it True Faith?
Yes, it is True Faith.
Okay, yeah.
I was like lost for a second. I'm like, what the fuck is it? Yeah, it is True Faith.
I mean, if you can think of like any New Order song that's like perfect to kill somebody to, it'd be True Faith.
But that's all I can think of when it like pops up on my Pandora now. That's all I can think of.
Have you ever seen the music video to True Faith?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think of that a lot. I think of the son doing the sign language and the two like rock'em sock'em robot like things slapping each other.
That's all gonna change.
Oh, is it? Okay. I had remind me afterwards to show you this thing called The Drama. It was a YTMND site called Tom Cruise Triangle, and it's bizarre love triangle playing. With Tom Cruise's face, and then after 5 seconds it switches to scat porn.
Okay.
So that did something for me for that song, but that song will never be ruined.
Scat porn did something for you?
Scat porn did something for me, clearly.
Yeah.
Clearly. I mean, we all have itches we need to scratch, Yergy, okay?
You know.
And you should know this being German.
Are you sure you're not a little German?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I haven't had my 23andMe because I don't want the government to have my double helix on file. God, I sound fucking tinfoil hat-ish, but
you know, I was with you on that until my mom fucking did it. So now I can't go kill anybody.
Oh yeah, that's true. You can't because would they catch the Green River Killer because one of his relatives did 23andMe?
No. It wasn't Green River. It was the the one in California, like Golden State Killer.
Oh yeah, Golden
East
State
Area
Killer.
Rapist.
Yeah.
That's how all that started. And they found more people.
Did they?
Yeah,
Jeez.
that's like a thing now.
Yeah, so if you guys have any aspirations to be serial killers now, man, it's hard to be a serial killer nowadays. Thing of the past.
It's
What
like
a shame.
it's like a next level thing to be able to pull it off now.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, you look at like the Cincinnati torso killer. He killed a fuckload of people and then just decided to dump the bodies on Elliot Ness's doorstep in broad daylight, and they still couldn't find him. So we should actually do him next, because like that was such a crazy thing that here you have Elliot Ness, who like brings down Al Capone, head of the Untouchables, like the most like model cop by any stretch of the imagination. And then he has his career ruined by the Cincinnati torso killer because he couldn't find him, and he dies of a heart attack at like 45.
Yeah, we should probably do that next.
Yeah, it's a really interesting story, and I don't believe he was ever caught. This is the advantage of preying on the homeless and hookers. Jack the Ripper did something right, clearly. But
anyway, we're like doing what we normally do.
yeah.
Although my friend Manny is all about the fact that we just go off like a bunch of little old French women, like we do.
I mean, I'm glad, because I just don't think I can control that part of myself.
No.
But so thank you, Manny. Thank you. I'm glad somebody appreciates this.
Yes.
But anyways, let's see.
So we're talking about
mock crucifixions.
Yes. She couldn't do it because she was too heavy.
Yeah, apparently when you leave a body to decompose for a while, it gets all bloated and stuff.
Yeah.
Dead weight is a real thing. It's not just a phrase your mom taught you when you were like dragging your feet as a kid. No, like dead bodies are kind of hard to move.
Oh. The next part's a little bit romantic.
Oh, is it? How about you?
Yes.
How about you?
So when it was too heavy, he simply returned her corpse. He embraced it, caressing the decomposing body, and he laid beneath her remains. Yeah.
So think about laying beneath her remains. So you're literally laying in this cornfield, which is, sounds like a very calming thing that one could do. And then you're taking a bloated, rotting body that's going through rigor mortis and is like, releasing through all orifices, and you're just rolling this thing on top of you, and you're just sitting there enjoying your best life.
Yeah.
It sounds better than a weighted blanket.
You're not wrong.
I mean,
I bet it's very squishy.
It probably is.
Very supple. You
I bet
make your own hole.
I bet it smells bad.
Oh my God.
I mean,
I know how like dead mice smell. I just imagine that like times 1,000.
The rot of the grave.
Yeah. When I worked at the pet store, I used to have to sniff out the dead mice.
You had to sniff them out?
Yeah, because they would, especially when I worked at the Augusta store, like mice would constantly get out.
Yeah.
And they would just die random places. So all of a sudden, you just catch this whiff of death. You have to go find it.
They're like, hey, you with the nose for death, to go sniff out the dead things.
Yeah, I would find them under like the feed bins, all sorts of. The pet store is a whole different horror story.
I just don't even understand like why people would want to own mice or rats, because they die like 2 years tops, right?
Hey.
Hey, how about you fill me in on that?
It's true. So I don't keep mice because mice are fucking disgusting. They smell horrendous. They're super destructive. They're cute, but they're nasty. Rats, although less stinky and more friendly, if you get good ones, they only live to be like 2. And you've got like a 9 out of 10 chance they're going to develop some ginormous fucking tumor and die.
Why are they just so like predisposed to just all these awful diseases?
I think it's because they genetically altered them to be like lab animals.
I see.
So I think that's just where it comes from.
Programmed to die after a couple years.
So like out of the last few rats that I've had, 3 recently have ended up with like giant tumors.
Jesus Christ. So how do you, like, what is the appeal to getting rats? Because I just feel like I had a dog die on me after only like 2.5 years of knowing it. And I wish I never met it because, like, just the pain of that is just too much. Like, I can't imagine getting attached to something that you know is going to be dead in a couple of years.
So rats, first off, like, very cost effective. You go to buy one, they're like $7. Two, if you get a good one, and a lot of times you will get a good one, they're like extremely friendly. They like will know you. They give kisses. They're just very sweet little animals. They're a good pet for kids because they rarely bite. Although I got saddled with some really bitey ones recently. Well, not really recently. Within the last 2 years, I like had adopted some from like a rescue situation, and they all were very skittish, nippy, awful rats. But that's kind of the appeal for that. I don't know. I've kept them most of my adult life. When this last one goes, I'm not keeping any more. But yeah, that's besides the point.
Yeah, I feel like I'm all pets out at this point.
I am petted out.
Petted out. Heavy petting. Anyways, okay, so let's see. Where were we at?
We were talking about rolling in the corn with...
rolling in corn with dead, decomposing bodies.
Yeah.
So he lay beneath her remains, and then he reburied her body. According to his later confession, both before and after he had attempted to impale her corpse to a tree, he went to the grave many times and kept improving on it. And every time I thought of what was lying there, I was filled with satisfaction.
They're really weird about their graves in Germany.
Are they?
So
have you been?
No, but I've seen pictures and stuff like that of the graves. So you end up getting dug up. You only have it for a certain amount of time in some places. I think it's like 20 years, at least around where like my family is from.
Okay.
You get your stuff like dug up. But they're like weird. They look almost like little garden spots, and the gravestones are generally made of wood. That's not saying that's everywhere, because there's definitely, traditional cemeteries places in Europe. But
yeah, because I mean, when I went to France, like they had, your typical cemeteries.
Yeah. But let me see if I can't find a picture. I'll like just keep talking and stuff like that. But at least the picture I had seen of like my great oma and my uncle that recently passed, it's a similar type of situation like that. Okay. Whoa,
that's kind of loud. What is that?
I don't know. It's like my phone going crazy. Looks like someone sent me an email, and I bet it's nothing even important. Nope.
It's like, oh, Yergy coming to work and unfuck things.
No, that was like an email I got when I was sick the other day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't even want to check my work email. I really don't.
So I'm going to
check it later tonight, and it's probably going to be just a bunch of bullshit. Anyway, nobody can see this picture of this grave. I guess you can put it up on the Instagram later. But
I could. You can keep talking while I look this up.
Yeah, so... he was very dedicated to this grave. He wanted to make it look nice, and it was a nice little labor of love. You gotta respect that. So 3 months after he had murdered her, he posted an anonymous letter to the police where he confessed to the murder, adding that her remains had been buried in a field. In this letter, he also drew a crude map describing the location of her remains. This letter would prove sufficient to investigators, and they located her remains on November 15th. So, like, three-ish months later, I think? Yeah, 3 months later. Following that murder, he changed his weapon of choice from scissors to a knife in an apparent effort to convince police more than one perpetrator was responsible for the, spree of assault and murders. In the early morning of August 21st, he randomly stabbed an 18-year-old girl, a 30-year-old man, and a 37-year-old woman in separate attacks. All three were seriously wounded, and all stated to police their assailant had not spoken a word to them before he had attacked. 3 days later, at a fairground in the suburb of, how do you say this word? F-L-E-H-E. F-L-E-H-E.
F-L-E-H-E.
Suburb of, right here.
I can't see. Oh my God.
See it? Right
I
there?
see it. I don't know.
Okay.
Flehy?
Flehy.
That's wrong. That's totally wrong, but I don't even know.
Okay, well,
and
anyways.
I'm giving up looking up this gravestone because I don't think my cousin posted it. So
Okay.
and I'm looking up German graveyards, and they look a lot like what we have here. So maybe it's just
What was that?
in the town, like where they're all from.
What was that place you posted with all the crazy graveyards?
Oh, the crazy graveyards?
Yeah.
That's not even in Germany. That's like the crazy graveyards they have in Prague.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I knew it wasn't in Germany, but I just
where they're
wasn't
all
sure
like
where it
growing
was.
out of trees.
Yeah,
And,
that was really cool.
Yep.
So 3 days later at a fairground in that suburb, he observed two foster sisters. I don't know how he knew they were foster sisters, aged 5 and 14. They were walking from the fairground and through adjoining allotments en route to their home, sending the older girl, Louise Lenson, on an errand to purchase cigarettes for him upon the promise of being given 20...
Pfennig.
Whatever. It's like German marks back then, I would assume. Kürten lifted the younger child, Gertrude Hamacher, off the ground by her neck and strangled her into unconsciousness before cutting her throat and discarding her body in a patch of runner beans.
What the fuck's a runner bean?
I do not know what a runner bean is. How about you read this next one and I'll look up what runner beans are.
Okay. Let me just scroll up from our notes here. So when Lenzen returned to the scene, Kürten partially strangled her before stabbing her about the torso, with one wound piercing her aorta. He also bit and twice cut her throat before sucking blood from the wounds. Neither girl had been sexually assaulted. Big surprise. And the fact that only Lenzen's footprints were found within 7 meters of the body suggests that she may have attempted to flee from her attacker before collapsing.
I think this is the first one where he tries to drink blood. So even though he's called a vampire, like, he really didn't drink blood that often.
The following day, Kürten accosted a 27-year-old housemaid named Gertrude Schlute. There's a lot of Gertrudes here. Who he openly asked to engage with sex with him. Upon being rebuffed, Kürten shouted, "Well, die then!" Before...
Yeah, okay, so I remember this one.
Yeah.
So actually what had happened with this woman is he tried to accost her for sex, and the woman literally said, "I would rather die than have sex with you." So he said, "Well, die then."
Yes, before he repeatedly stabbed the woman in the head, neck, shoulders, and back. She survived her injuries, although she was unable to provide investigators with a clear description of her assailant beyond assuming his age to be around 40.
And runner beans are a type of green bean. They almost look identical to green beans, but apparently they're slightly different in some way. I don't know.
Who knows? So Kürten attempted to murder 2 further victims, one by strangulation, another by stabbing, in September before opting to predominantly use a hammer in his murders. So we're changing it up.
Yep. Who was another murder that used a hammer? Was it those Russian twins or some shit?
They're Ukrainians.
Ukrainians, yes. They used a hammer, right?
Yeah, so that's how I know what blood gurgling sounds like authentically.
Because you saw the video that got
Because
put up.
they videotaped it on a cell phone. Because apparently what they were trying to do is like kill a bunch of like homeless people or just, little, like, I don't know, just people around their town.
Yeah, this was an old man on a motorbike, if I recall the story.
So basically they plan to like sell like snuff films like on the black market, and
Lucrative market.
Yeah, I know it is Eastern Europe. So I have seen that film. And it's troubling because of the sound. It's really gross.
So it's really the sound that did it for you?
Yeah, the sound. The fact that the guy for a long time is in this ditch alive, no face left. You can't really tell what his face is, except there's the holes left for like the nose and mouth, and it's just gurgling, and you can see the bubbles, and yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't want to watch the video, not that I'm suggesting this really, but if you want to, Sword and Scale, which was a good podcast, but the host is kind of an asshole. They did a episode on Luco Magnotta, and for some reason they put in this footage too, even though it had nothing to do with his case. I think probably because it was 2 like snuff films.
They were able to put snuff films into their podcast, like legit footage. Is that illegal?
Not the footage, but the sounds. And just to like be shocking, he just let the sound of the gurgling go. And I remember, like, I had seen it. It didn't faze me as much, but I'm sitting here at my desk trying to work, and it's on my podcast. And I'm like, God damn.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, sounds are something. Sounds are way, like, worse than sights, because you see in movies and stuff, like, enough, like, people mangled and stuff that you're kind of prepared for it, but, like, a good, authentic sound is not something you hear very often.
No.
So
I was not prepared for that.
Yeah. Yeah, so anyways.
Anywho.
Hammer attacks, that's how we got on this topic. So on the evening of September 30th, Kürten encountered a 31-year-old servant girl named Ida Rauter at Düsseldorf station. He successfully persuaded her to accompany him to a cafe, then for a walk through the local Hofgarten close to the Rhine River. At this location, he repeatedly struck her about the head with a hammer, both before and after he raped her. At one stage in this assault, Rauter regained consciousness and began pleading with Kürten to spare her life. In response, Kürten simply gave her other hammer blows to the head and misused her. What does this mean?
Misused?
Yeah, what does it mean to misuse someone in this way? That sounds very sexual.
They do it with a hammer? I don't know.
Man, I don't know. I don't know. What I want to know is I want to, like, see this Hofgarten along the Rhine River, because usually when I go to major cities where there's a river that runs through it, it's usually quite a hot spot for, like, joggers and people who walk, or just people having picnics, or just in general, like, a high traffic spot, even at night. So I really want to know what this looks like, because on paper you would think it would be hard to rape and kill somebody there, especially with a hammer, if somebody's screaming while you're hitting them with a hammer and raping them. I mean, I don't know. You're trying to look it up, aren't you?
I'm looking it up. See if I can't find it.
I hope if you find something. I bet it's probably a lot more urbanized nowadays, and we probably wouldn't be able to find pictures of it back then, but that's just the first thing that comes to my mind. I just don't know how he was getting away with this stuff. 11 days later, on October 11th, he encountered a 22-year-old servant girl named Elizabeth Dorier outside a theater. As had been the case with Rauter, Dorier agreed to accompany Kürten for a drink at a cafe before the pair took a train to Grafenberg with view to a walk alongside the Klein-Dussel River, where she was struck once across her right temple with a hammer, then raped, and then he struck her repeatedly about the head and both temples with his hammer and left her for dead. She was found at 6:30 a.m. the following morning, and although she died from her injuries the following day without awaking from the coma in which she was discovered, that was it. Sorry, my inflection was off.
It's okay.
My throat is like... So for people to understand, I've had, like, a low-grade fever. My throat has been fucked up. I have had all my lymph nodes swollen up. And, talking is...
All right, I'll take over.
Talking is a chore right now.
So on October 25th, Kürten attacked two women with a hammer. Both survived, although the second instance was only because Kürten's hammer broke in the attack. November 7th, 1929, Kürten encountered a 5-year-old girl named Gertrude Albermann.
Albermann.
Another Gertrude in the Flingern district of Düsseldorf. He persuaded the child to accompany him to a section of deserted allotments.
What are allotments?
I'm assuming it's like a parcel of lands, like those ones that are like in downtown where all the apartments like burnt down.
Oh yeah.
So like a vacant lot.
Okay.
I'm guessing.
Makes sense.
Yeah, where he seized her by the throat and strangled her, stabbing her once in the left temple. He loves the temples.
Yeah.
With a pair of scissors. Yeah. So when Albermann collapsed to the ground without a sound, Kürten stabbed the child 34 times in the temple and chest before leaving her body in a pile of nettles against a factory wall.
Man, there's just so many like different things. You got corn, you got some runner beans, you got some nettles. Man, he's got some like choices. He's got some variety.
So this brings us to the investigation portion.
Yeah, because at this point, when a bunch of people are fucking dead, the police are gonna have enough. Like when you like waste like 15 people
all
in
named
like 12,
Gertrude
in 12 months' time.
Yes. So by the late summer of 1929, the murders committed by the individual the press has dubbed the Vampire of Dusseldorf receiving considerable national and international attention. Due to the sheer savagery of the murders, the diverse background of the victims, and the differing methods in which they had been assaulted and or murdered, both the police and the press theorized the spate of assaults and murders were the work of more than one perpetrator. By the end of 1929, Dusseldorf police have received more than 1,300 letters from the public.
13,000.
13,000, excuse me. With assistance from surrounding police forces, each lead was painstakingly pursued. Obviously, they didn't do a very good job, but
no. I mean, he left so much evidence.
Right?
Like we did not, like... So I couldn't find much in this, but when I researched this for my capstone, the amount of evidence he left behind and the amount of people he left alive was just so insane that he was not caught. He was a very, very sloppy killer. Mm-hmm. He did not think these things through very well. He just mostly did things on a whim. And the biggest thing that he did to try to make investigators not think it was one person was just pick different demographic groups and change his weapon every now and then. Other than that, he's a very simple man as far as killings are concerned. Oh, yeah, and as a result of the investigation, more than 9,000 individuals were interviewed. 9,000, and he was not one of them.
Yeah.
This is so crazy to me. And how many names? 900,000.
Yeah.
900,000 names were compiled upon an official potential suspect list.
It's ridiculous.
Like, what is the fucking population of Germany?
Let's take a look here.
Yeah, like...
Well, it's obviously different now, but... So let's see here.
I mean, I just want to know what it is now, because, I mean, like, what, a couple million?
Population of Germany, 82.79 million.
Okay, I'm going to do 1929. If they have record of that, they should. Census in Germany.
My goodness.
I'm not having it. I wonder if they can hear...
my awful cat?
Yeah, Kyton meowing the entire time.
He's been terrible today.
Mm-hmm. He's always terrible, though. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not really getting any sort of census. Well, anyway, they had 900,000 names. I can't even, like, comprehend that. But anyway, that's what they had. 2 days after the murder of Gertrude Alberman, a local communist newspaper, because those were things back then, received a map revealing the location of the grave of Maria Hahn, which was that woman that he wanted to crucify. In this drawing, Kürten also revealed precisely where he had left Alberman's body, which had been found earlier that day. He also described the exact position of her corpse, which he stated could be found face down among bricks and rubble.
In a cornfield?
In a cornfield. An analysis of the handwriting revealed the author was the same individual who had anonymously informed police in a letter dated on October 14th that he had killed Hahn and buried her body at the edge of the woods. Each letter Kürten had thus far sent to newspapers and police, describing his exploits and threatening further assaults and murders, was examined by a graphologist who confirmed the same individual had written each letter. So at that point, the chief of Berlin police, Ernst Gennat, I think is how you pronounce it, concluded publicly that one man was responsible for most, if not all, of the assaults and murders.
Right. So this is going to bring us to 1930. Mm-hmm. So the murder of Gertrude Alberman proved to be Kürten's final attack.
Final attack,
yes. Although he did engage in a spate of non-fatal hammer attacks and attempted strangulations between February and May of 1930, maiming 10 victims in these assaults. All
Most being women.
Yeah, all recipients survived, and many were able to describe the attacker to police. But I mean, really, does that mean much for 1930s Germany? First off, a lot of German men kind of look alike back
Y'all
then.
look the same.
They all had the Hitler stash. They had the little comb over thing. They all look the same. Like, I've seen pictures of like my great grandfather. He looks just like this too. Like, they all look the same.
So even like more recently, the Yorkshire Ripper in England. his description looked like just about everyone in England. They even brought in Peter Hook and interviewed him, accusing him of being the Yorkshire Ripper. And the only reason they caught the Yorkshire Ripper is because he was talking to some cop for some reason. I think he got pulled over for whatever reason, and the cop just like looked at the poster, looked at him, he's just like, hey, are you the Yorkshire Ripper? And just kind of as a joke, and the guy's just like, yeah, I am. That's for whatever reason. But anyways, yeah, descriptions don't mean much back then, I guess.
So much New Order discussion today.
I know. I know. Okay, so where are we at?
Where are we?
14th of May.
Yeah, so the 14th of May, 1930, an unknown man approached a 20-year-old woman named Maria Budlick at Düsseldorf station. Budlick. Discovering Budlick had traveled to Düsseldorf from Köln in search of lodgings and employment, this individual offered to direct her towards a local hostel. Budlick agreed to follow the individual, although she became apprehensive when this man attempted to lead her through a scarcely populated park. The pair began to argue, whereupon another man approached the duo, asking whether Budlick had been pestered by her companion. When Budlick nodded, the individual whom she had been arguing with simply walked away. The identity of the man who obstinately became Budlick's aide was Peter Kürten.
Oh, man. So I always wonder if, like, this girl was just a really bad judge of character, or if, like, she was about to get killed by this one dude, and Peter Kürten comes over, he's like, nah, bro. I'm killing this girl.
Right.
You can mosey on off, small time.
So Kürten invited the distressed young woman to his apartment on Mettmannerstrasse to eat and drink before Budlick, correctly deducing the underlying motive for Kürten's hospitality, stated she was uninterested in engaging in sex with him. Kürten calmly agreed and offered to lead Budlick to a hotel, even though he instead lured her into the Grafenberg woods, where he seized her by the throat and attempted to strangle as he raped her. When Budlick began to scream, Kürten released his grasp on her throat before allowing her to leave. Budlick did not report this assault to police, but described her ordeal in a letter to a friend, although she addressed the letter incorrectly. As such, the letter was opened at the post office by a clerk on May 19th. Upon reading the contents of the letter, the clerk forwarded the letter to the Düsseldorf police.
So the only reason that he was caught, surprisingly enough, was because this girl who he let live for whatever reason decided to write a letter to her friend, and then, what's the word I'm looking for? Did not put the correct address or name on the letter, so therefore the dead letter office opened it. Justifying this.
Yeah. So this letter was read by Chief Inspector Gennat, who deduced that there was a slim chance of Budlick's assailant might be the Düsseldorf murderer. The inspector interviewed Budlick, who recounted her ordeal, further divulging one of the reasons Kürten had spared her was because she had falsely informed him that she could not remember his address. She agreed to lead the police to Kürten's home and led police to Kürten's Mettmannerstrasse address. When the landlady of the property led Budlick into the room, Budlick confirmed the chief inspector this was the address of her assailant. The landlady confirmed the chief inspector's home was that of Peter Kürten. So there.
Yeah, so that's basically how he was caught, oddly enough.
Right.
Not because, he left a bunch of clues behind, but just this. He wasn't home when Budlick and the chief inspector searched his property, that he spotted the pair in the communal hallway and promptly left. Knowing that his identity was now known to the police and suspecting they may also have connected him to the Düsseldorf vampire crimes, he confessed to his wife that he raped Budlick. And this is the same woman, Augusta Scharf. Mm-hmm. Which, did you find anything about her shooting her ex-husband?
No, all when I searched her name, it was just basically bringing me into Wikipedia articles and such, saying that he had been shot, but nothing saying why or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't even have death records for her. I tried to. I looked
Nothing.
really hard. It's weird. It's almost as if this woman didn't even exist. But when I first compiled the notes for my project in high school, I thought that once he had gotten the seduction charge, that she left him. But she apparently stayed with him this entire time and just put up the fact that he was just a skis and a rapist and just overall creepy. And so he told his wife that he raped that girl, and that because of his previous convictions, he may receive 15 years penal labor. And with his wife's consent, he found lodgings in the Alderstrasse district of Düsseldorf and did not return to his own home until May 23rd. When he returned home, he confessed to his wife that he was a Düsseldorf vampire, and with Kürten's full consent, he urged his wife to collect the substantial reward offered for his capture. So she contacted the police the following day. In the information provided to detectives, Kürten's wife explained that although she had known her husband had been repeatedly imprisoned in the past, she was unaware of his culpability in any murders. She then added that her husband had confessed to his culpability in the Düsseldorf vampire murders, and that he was willing to likewise confess to police. Furthermore, he was to meet her outside in St. Rochus Church later that day. That afternoon, Kürten was arrested in gunpoint. So what's different about him compared to a lot of other murderers is that he has this he claims he has no conscience, but he really had this sense of conscience surrounding his wife. This was somebody he, in his own twisted way, really loved and gave a shit about.
Right.
And that's just it completely contradicts everything else about his behavior. I always found that fascinating.
Yeah. So let me take a look here. What we have left we have quite a bit of information left.
We don't have that much.
That's several pages.
Do we?
Yeah.
Because we are on. Yeah, there's a psychological study, then the trial.
Yep. So I guess we could probably finish up this part here.
Okay, I guess before the psychological study we could. Yeah. I guess we do have quite a bit more stuff.
Because that would give us a chance to try to find that movie at some point.
Yeah.
Report back and then just cover the end game.
That's true. Actually, we could even stop it here. Because now. That he's apprehended, it's going to go into his confession, the psychological studies, and then his trial, and then conviction. So yeah, we could stop it here if you want to.
Yeah, it's probably a good wrap up point.
Okay.
So that's all I have.
No housekeeping notes, anything like that?
Nope, we covered them in the beginning.
Okay, yeah, we did. Okay. Well, my throat thanks you because I'm starting to strain at this point.
I can tell.
You can tell. Okay, I appreciate it.
Yes.
All right. Well, anyways.
Bye.
Bye.